congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, insane. You guys are both insane in this. When I think of The Little Mermaid, I think of that iconic sound. What was it like for you performing that? Like, I would love to know, Halle, like the nerves behind it, the conversations you were having about that specific sound, how many takes you did.
Yeah, it was very surreal for me to be able to film specifically that melody line that's been so iconic to so many of us for so long. I was really excited to kind of make it my own, but also honor the work that Jodie Benson did, who was just incredible, and just happy to be a part of it, honestly.
How many like takes did you do, and were you nervous at all, like going in?
I think it was quite a few takes.
No, it wasn't. It was like one. It was none. I remember.
Really?
You basically, I swear you did it in like one.
Okay. Maybe it was. Maybe
It was perfect straight away. I remember.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was something like that.
Were you nervous? Like, were you practicing it at home? And is that like the moment where you were like, oh my God, I'm playing The Little Mermaid?
Oh yeah, that was a big staple. I felt like I had big shoes to fill with, especially the music of the film is so beautiful, and I just wanted to do that justice. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you definitely did.
Thank you.
And of course, she makes that sound, you know, to give up her voice. And a lot of the Little Mermaid's and Ariel's acting is silent. Like, a lot of what you have to do is silent. Did you work with a movement coach at all? And like, how did you convey emotion through your body, and what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, well, we had amazing, a team of choreographers. Tara and Joey were just absolutely amazing, and they helped us a lot when it came to things like that. And then just with my facials, I had to really find the deeper meaning of what Ariel was feeling in those certain moments, and what it would feel like to no longer have this voice, but have this desperate longing still for this future, for this person. So it was a lot to navigate, and I'm happy to do it. Yeah.
Did you channel, or like, what were you thinking of as you were like doing certain things? Like, did you rely on something, like a mantra that you were saying to yourself as you were silent acting?
Yeah, I think I just really tried my best to put myself in Ariel's mindset, and put myself in the mindset of being away from everything I knew, and suddenly thrown into this new world, and what that would feel like, how scary, how exciting, how everything would feel. So I just tried to play that.
And obviously, like, the chemistry between Ariel and Prince Eric is just like the most delicious out of any Disney animated couple, as you guys know. What did you guys do offset to sort of build that chemistry and really bring that to life in the live action?
Yeah, I mean, I think it happened pretty quickly. I think Halle was, the first time I met her was at the screen test. She was so kind to me, very supportive. And then from the first day of rehearsals, it was easy. I mean, we became friends really quickly, and I think what's nice about this version is that we really, I think, feel that friendship on screen. I think it's something really deep. Of course, the romance is there, but I think they find each other funny, and they teach each other things, and I think we brought a lot of the stuff that we share off screen into the film.
Nice. Did you guys get a chance to like hang and sort of bond offset before like shooting it all? Or?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was so much fun to be able to have kind of like a partner in crime to do this with, because this was so new for me. I had never done anything like this, and the fact that me and Jonah were both taking on such bigger roles than we have ever done was really like a bonding experience on its own. So we would talk about it a lot before, try to figure out our best ways to do it, put our best performance forward, and just having that friendship, I think, really helped us both.
And I tried to show you around London a bit. We went for a few meals and stuff, so yeah.
Did you guys get any kisses, do's, and don'ts? Like, I'm always curious when I'm watching like a Disney prince and princess kiss on screen. Like, it's so delicate and so graceful, and I'm like, I wish I looked like that when I was kissing. Like, do you guys get any kiss, do's, and don'ts?
Did we? I can't remember.
We didn't really get told anything.
No.
I think they really they didn't tell us anything. They were like, okay, just go, right?
Yeah, although I remember one quite funny thing, which is that it was during COVID. And at the time, we still didn't really know exactly what was going on with it and how to deal with it. And so there was a lot of separation a lot of the time. You had to be quite careful. Obviously, for a kissing scene, we couldn't do that. I remember they came and gave us like Listerine mouthwash.
Yeah.
Do you remember? As if that was going to kill the COVID, just in case we were going to pass it to each other through that. Either that or they thought I had bad breath. I don't know. But hopefully they did that
I mean, I was going to say, I didn't get any Listerine. I'm just joking.
Wait, that's amazing.
I saw you there. Like, yeah.
Great, that's hilarious. What was, I also had to ask you, Halle, about the Dinglehopper, because it's my favorite thing ever. What is it like for you to like look at forks now? Like, did you like play with the fork before coming to set? You know, like what is that experience like for you now?
Yeah, I love looking at forks now.
What? It's kind of weird that you can't look at them the same way. My mum said this last night, having seen it. We went back and she was like looking at this fork. I was like, Mum, what are you doing? It's just a fork. Like, relax.
Yeah,
oh,
it
man.
definitely changes the way you see forks, for sure.
You can't live in that world unless you become a human yourself.
Is that even possible?
That's what I live for.
Melissa McCarthy. Like, I walked out of that theater and I was like, Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. Like, you stayed true to the character, but you made it your own. There's a line that you say when Ariel gets her legs and she swims to the surface that I, like, almost peed my pants. Talk to me about, like, infusing your humor and ad-libbing. Like, did you do any of that? Did you come up with that line?
A little, the Lord of Stupid Little Feet.
Yeah.
That I threw in. I just thought it was funny, and the guys, like Rob and John, thought it was funny, so we kept it in. I was like, it seems pretty snarky of her as she's like kind of drowning to throw a jab at her, but it felt dishy and right. There's like a couple things, but everything else was really in the recipe, and I just like followed along delightfully, but it was so fun.
Oh my God, you could tell how much fun you're having. Yeah. Did that just come to you in the moment, or were you thinking like stupid little feet? Like, did
No, I think it was in a rehearsal where we were singing it and we were recording it for me to like kind of practice with, and I think I threw it in there. And it made John laugh, so I was like, maybe I'll keep saying that.
It's so good. The scene of Poor Unfortunate Souls, I like fist pumped after seeing it last night. God. I was like, oh my goodness, just the animation, like everything came together so well. Yeah. What was it like shooting that underwater? And what, I wanted to know, Melissa, like, were you wearing tentacles? Were you sitting? Were you standing? Were you in front of a green screen?
None of it was underwater. Okay. I was never in water.
Got it.
But it was just amazing that they digitized the hair, and we were always in these kind of all different rigs. If you were swimming one way, it was in one kind of rig where you were like horizontal and you moved along with like 7 people kind of pushing you in like a giant baby stroller of sorts. And then if you're spinning, it was one, or if I was up in wires on another, if I had to be flipping. But we just kind of did it. They're so masterful, John and Rob, with what they do, and the choreographers and the stunts and the dancers. We just took it little section by little section. So when I'm sliding down something or flipping over or you're going into the abyss, we're all doing it for the most part. There's there's little times where, of course, I can't crawl across the wall. I'm not really an octopus. That would take over and they would be my tentacles. But it was wild. I had 8 dancers with huge tentacles that as I moved with me. It was wild.
You had 8 dancers as your tentacles?
Holding tentacles. So everyone could kind of feel, and like if Triton was up higher, like they would have Javier up higher, and we were like, they wanted us to feel the space. It was really amazing.
Well, you both are so incredible in it. I mean, Javier is King Triton. I was just thinking about how you have to have such a certain type of build to play like King Triton. And I was like, did you train for that, like physically or anything?
Just the arms. Just the arms, thank God. Because one of the things I said to Rob and Johnny is like, don't make me go bird. How do you say bird?
Bare-chested, yes.
Bare-chested, yeah.
Sin camisa.
Yeah, sin camisa. I'm 52. Please, I'm not Brad Pitt. Or you work digitally on it, or you work a lot digitally on it, and you put like a good 6-pack. And they said, no, that's way too expensive. We put an armor.
So did you actually
work
out?
A lot of arms.
That's so funny. You get to eat whatever you want, and then you're just like pumping iron.
But I was eating a lot because that won't be seen, but the arms.
That's amazing. One thing I really love about these Disney movies, in general, I don't know if you guys had to do this, but for most of these movies, you have to audition with a song that's not a Disney song, and you have to Disney-fy it. Did you guys have to do that at all?
No.
You didn't have to do that.
I will never get the job.
No, I never, ever get the job at all.
What was your audition process like then?
I went after trying desperately to get a meeting with Rob. And I was like, I'm perfectly fine. I know he's going to say no, but I knew that if I didn't try, I would regret it forever. Because I'm sure I was nowhere even toward the bottom of his list. I'm sure, I was like, why would he be thinking of me for this? I'm not a singer. And he very nicely agreed to meet me. We had a great lunch, and I think we really kind of had the same feeling about how to play her and talk about kind of her loneliness and all of those things. So delightfully, for some reason, I conned him into it.
So you really thought that you were like at the bottom of the list?
No, I didn't think I was on the list, and I don't think I was. I just don't think I'm in that category for to do a song like that, and because I associated with a musician will get this.
Are you so proud of yourself? Like, how did you feel after watching that scene last night at the premiere?
I am proud of myself because I was really nervous about it. And so to go through with it, I was glad that I was like, I'm 52 as well. That's why we're brothers. We are twins.
Yes.
That we can, that I can still push myself and be like, it's okay. Do something scary. It's fine.
Javier, I know for you, I was reading that you described this as like a very Shakespearean role. And for me, Little Mermaid meant so much. It was the first movie I ever saw in theaters.
Oh, wow.
And I'm very close to my father. And so I got really teary-eyed at the end of the film because to me, at the core, this is a father-daughter story.
Yeah.
What was your daughter's reaction to you playing King?
She hasn't seen it yet, so I can wait for her to see it. And my son, my 12-year-old boy and my 10-year-old girl. It's going to be a big moment for me. Yeah.
Does she know that you're playing King Troy? And does she know the story of the Little Mermaid?
And she was in the rehearsals back in the day when it was before the pandemic. And then after the pandemic and while shooting, visits were not allowed to go on set because of the COVID rules. So she hasn't seen anything. It's going to be a big revelation to see that.
Wow. Did she say anything to you when she was there with you about
Well,
it?
the first time she heard I was going to be in the movie, she asked me if I was going to play Ariel.
Which I want to see that movie really badly. I really do.
I said, no,
I'm all for that. Come on, Disney.
Come on.
Something about you seems different. I can't quite figure it out.
She got legs, you idiot.
Can we talk about the fact that, like, the animals and creatures in Disney movies are just, like, the unsung heroes? Like, who would Mulan be without Mushu?
That's
or, like,
true.
Hercules
That's true.
without Pegasus? It's like these characters rely on Flounder and Scuttle and Sebastian to really, like, hype them up in moments of doubt. So if you guys could ad-lib lines for people experiencing doubt or maybe nervous to go in for that kiss, what would you say to them?
I don't know. There's a
That
whole
was
song
such a
about
hard
it. It's
pivot.
like-
That was
yeah,
such
I was
a
like,
crazy
whoa.
pivot. No, but I was like, you're right there, but what? I would say, you know what? Just you have no, I mean, like look at you. You have nothing else to lose. I don't know what I'm talking about. We're ad-libbing. So it's like I'm assuming that someone needs to go in for. I'm just like, you know what are you doing? What else are you doing? You know, what I mean? Like just take a shot and you'll know.
Yeah, I guess it depends on who we're talking to.
It would just be like anyone, and as like a Disney sort of that ancillary character, that's like the hype man. Like,
Well,
what
in
advice
my
would you
character,
give?
the thing about Flounder is that I know I would tell people, it's important to take risks, but also like my character Flounder, he's not really a risk taker.
You're risk averse.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a hypochondriac.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Sebastian wrote a whole song about it. He's like pretty versed in just kiss the girl. Like
Kiss the Girl was so funny. You guys did such a good job on
yeah,
that, and
thank
just the music in The Little Mermaid's so good. What was your reaction to you guys seeing your voices coming out of these creatures on screen? Like the first time you saw your character on screen.
For me, it was weird, especially because I believe I was 12 or I just turned 13 at the time of filming. So I could kind of hear myself, but at the same time, that feeling of, hearing yourself, it's always a weird feeling. Kind of wasn't as much there just because I couldn't really recognize my own voice that much just because it changed quite a bit. Or at least I like to think that it changed.
Yeah.
What about for you guys? What was your first reaction seeing your voice come out of a bird and a crab on screen?
I mean, so cool. So I mean, literally, so cool. As with any time, like you kind of see yourself, but especially as Scuttle. I mean, you're reintroduced to a whole new character in your life in general. So and you're a part of it. So it's very cool.
Yeah, I do a lot of animation work, but this one was special. So like, it was nice that it was like a vocal choice. Like so a lot of times you do animation and people are like, really want you to be as natural and as close to yourself as possible. But like we got to spend enough time with these characters that we really got to develop voices for them, and that for me was super fun to watch that. To get to like, it was easier for me to be like, that's Sebastian, not me. You know?
Right. And I know that you actually put so much research into this role, more than you have for any other role in your life. You went to Trinidad, you went to Jamaica. Lin-Manuel Miranda's son is named Sebastian, and you were playing Sebastian, so no pressure.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, like, how does Daveed Diggs feel about crabs? Like, do you eat crabs? Do you like crabs? Like,
Yeah, I find them delicious.
What is the experience when you look at a crab now?
Still delicious, mostly. But I was just I was in Mexico and I was walking on a beach and there were a bunch of little like hermit crabs there, sort of like running across the beach. And this was like pretty recently, like after we had sort of started thinking about the film coming out. I remember seeing them and just being like, oh yeah, watching them move sideways and be like, oh man, I felt like a deeper kinship to them. But I still eat crab.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, I felt a deep connection to.
But then I just ate a whole crab.
Yeah.
No.
And then a bird came along and snatched it.
I know,
I was
right?
like, there it is. That's
yeah.
Your rap scene was like so good.
Oh.
And then Jacob, I wanted to ask you, because you voiced Luca in Pixar, so you went from being like a sea monster to like a fish.
Yeah, I'm devolving, I guess.
Yeah. What do you think Luca would say to Ariel if they ever met?
Ooh, that's really. I mean, I guess they do have quite a bit in common since they both want to kind of experience the I guess the human world. That's a really good question though. I think that he would probably just share some words of encouragement, I guess, to follow her dreams, I guess, and I'm sure they'd be good friends, obviously. Yeah.
I admit that in the past I've been a nasty. They weren't kidding when they called me, well, a witch. But you'll find that nowadays I've mended all my ways. Repentance in the light and made a switch. True. Yes.
Alan Menken, on behalf of like every 90s child that had a Little Mermaid comforter, I just want to thank you for creating the soundtrack to our childhood.
You're welcome.
And I know there's a rumor out there of like Walt Disney being frozen or something, and I'm like, is that the plan for Alan Menken? Like, what's the Disney insurance policy
We're gonna
here?
freeze me.
Like, you must be protected at all costs.
Oh, well, the music will live forever, and you don't need me for that.
It's truly remarkable, like what you've done. I mean, you've made the music literally to our childhood: The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Pocahontas, Aladdin. What do you consider to be your magnum opus?
Maybe Hunchback.
Why Hunchback?
Well, Hunchback is just the most emotionally complex and adult in the issues that it deals with. Plus, it's the most sophisticated in terms of pulling on classical, romantic classical themes and the liturgy of the church and all. But they're also different. Mermaid is so innocent and so almost naive in its simplicity, and it's just disarming for people. And then when you get to Beauty, it has more texture, again, it's a little more classical and closer to some of the early Walt in terms of those colors. When you get to Aladdin is really draws on a spoof of the Hollywood view of the mysterious East. And so we pull on those kind of colors in Harlem jazz and all those influences that I think that made it much more fun than if it had just been, literal. Pocahontas is probably the most literal of the scores. Hunchback has a literalness to it, but it pulls on so many themes: the liturgy of the church, the gypsy, Romany, the romantic classical music, all of those elements in there. Then you get to Hercules. Hercules is pure gospel. And so all of those different... Enchanted was a most fun spoof of all the different Disney styles, telling the story of this animated ingenue who's thrown into our world and all the stuff that ensues from that. And then Tangled is kind of almost folk rock in a way, so they all have their own places. So it's hard for me to really, and then of course there's Home on the Range, the classic Home on the Range, which was, a lot of country music. And
It's remarkable how you're able to dip in all those genres, and I love that Hunchback was the first thing that came to your mind, because it is very grandiose in that way, like dun dun like it's crazy.
And then we get to
Yeah.
Morning.
But what's interesting, Alan, is you juxtapose it with the simplicity of Little Mermaid and how this was the first film that you had ever composed. And it's almost like the more simple, the harder, right? When I think of Little Mermaid, I think of, like, tell me about creating that moment.
The water flowing, right? And the sense of mystery under the sea. And also, yes, her voice. And then, of course, look at this stuff. And then you're getting a normal teenage girl going, look at stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm the girl? That combination is just, you know, I mean, Howard was such an amazing collaborator.
I know.
So all of those colors, yes, and the decision to have Sebastian be a Caribbean crab as opposed to a stuffy English crab was huge. So thus you have that kind of very rhythmic, the sea beat the always cleaner, and you want to you're taking advantage of the characters also, that both the stiffness and romanticism of Sebastian, the court composer. So he's got that. He wants to be respected, and he wants to be serious, but he's also so endearing. And all these influences dictated the score more than anything else. Little Mermaid really was our follow-up to Little Shop of Horrors.
I know. I remember you went from there, and then you did film. But it's. I'm just so enamored hearing you pontificate on where you pull the influences from, like their personality, right? You're like, Sebastian's endearing, so then you make that sound. So you make this masterpiece. And now we have a live action.
Yeah.
When you get the call that they're doing a live action, does that make you nervous? Or are you like, oh my God, this is my masterpiece? Tell me about infusing rap into this version of The Little Mermaid and what those conversations were like.
That was just a matter of me. I created actually a Caribbean piece of music, but I can't even play it for you, but a lilted Caribbean piece of music that's underneath, and I thought Lynn would set those lyrics, and he went off and he rapped over them, and it was like, oh my God, incredible. It was just serendipity. But that's, you're you're not playing tag, but you're kind of going back and forth between two collaborators. I add something, he adds something, we react to each other.
I mean, Lynn working with you is such an outer body experience for him because your music and The Little Mermaid literally set him on the trajectory to be who he is. Like, I was talking to Stephanie Beatrice from Encanto, and she was telling me that he uses Little Mermaid as a shorthand. He's like, this is your Ursula moment. As creatives, for you and Lynn, I think people often think when you're a creative, you have good ideas all the time, and that's not true. What space do you create? Where are you recording? What is the setting where you let creativity flow through you?
Well, anywhere I go, but I have a studio upstate New York, and Lynn comes up and worked with me there. First, we had meetings at Rob's apartment, and we dissected, the new book, the new treatment, where the songs would go, and then where the new songs might go. And we discussed each of the song moments. We knew we wanted something for Prince Eric to sing, both about the girl, but also about his love affair with the sea and these uncharted waters that he wanted to explore, the uncharted part of his life, and of course her life too. And then for the first time, when she's finally on land, I gave him a piece of music that was very lilting. It was actually a variation of something that's in the first movie. And he said, can we do a 2 against a 3? So you have that rhythmic rub that was very much the result of this particular collaboration.
Wish I could be part of that world.
Rob, you killed it. Congratulations.
Thank you
on the
so much.
film.
Well, listen, I thought about you and people like you when I was making it. Well, it means so much to people. people grew up on this film. You know, I'll say to someone, you know, they'll say, "What are you doing?" I say, "Well, I'm directing The Little Mermaid." "Oh, that's my favorite, you know, when I was a kid," or "That's my favorite, you know, my child's favorite," or my what. I mean, it says everybody has a deep connection to it in some way. I think it was because it was the one that people watched over and over and over again, you know?
It was the first movie I saw in movie theaters.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
getting to spend 7 minutes with Alan Menken, I was like, this is what 7 minutes in heaven is
Wow.
like. But let's talk about you, because you are the man of the hour. You have directed so many things. Mary Poppins, Chicago, Pirates of the Caribbean, and you said that this was the most challenging thing you've ever done, because no one's ever shot a musical underwater before.
No, it was crazy.
What was it like shooting those underwater scenes? I was reading that the actors were on wires and things called like tuning forks and
Yes.
teeter-totters, and I was hoping you could like paint that picture.
I
like,
love that you
to
know all
us.
that already. This is
Yeah.
exactly what you know. What we did is exactly what you're saying. I mean, the crazy thing was we had to design it all in advance, because we can't just walk in and say, well, we're just going to do this. I had to communicate the shot and how and what we wanted the actors to do to the camera team, but also to the stunt team. Every actor had like 8 or 9 people moving them around. So they would literally, because they were, you know, they'd be on these big crane arms, and they and had to be timed to music, had to be timed to dialogue, that kind of thing. And it was sometimes, you know, I would call action. They would be on some kind of apparatus, and then I would say cut after 2 lines, and we put them on a different like rig. Like now you have to be on wires to do this move. So it was all done in these pieces, and the only way we were able to do it was literally in rehearsals. We did it on our feet first and found the scene, so you could play the scene and know what the scene was before we put everybody up in the air. But the crazy thing is, you know, after we did it all, I mean, they're wearing wig caps, and because all of the hair is added digitally. The costumes, most of the time, they're just wearing like a suit with tracking marks. And so everything is added afterwards. It's all designed in advance, but it's all added afterwards. The water, the backgrounds, the fish, you know, everything, all of it. And but I have to say that the most important thing when I was working on the film, do not let the technical aspect of this movie lead it. It has to be about story. It has to be about character. It has to be about acting. You have to feel for these people so you care about them. Otherwise, why? Why do it, you know?
Wow, the way you were just describing that, I was just picturing 8 people around each actor. Melissa was telling me that 8 people were her tentacles.
Yes,
and it sounds
they were.
like Bugsby, like Berkeley.
It is
It's like-
Busby. I love that you know that who that is.
Of
and
course,
what that
I
is.
watch it all the time.
But that's exactly right.
Did you feel like you were doing that? And I also read, I have so many questions, that Under the Sea was the hardest and challenging, and I wanted to know why
Very hard.
that was.
Well, with Under the Sea, the reason it was the hardest because it's the big production number of the piece, but there's one live actor. So how do you do that? So I actually took a page out of the playbook of Walt Disney. He had worked with the Ballet Russe when he created Fantasia, a ballet company, because he needed the animators to work with some kind of form to sketch something. So I thought that's a brilliant idea, and I brought the Alvin Ailey Foundation over to London to work with them to create this number. And so they were replicating all these sea creatures, and so the animators, our CGI animators, had their bodies to work from. And we had chosen all of the creatures in advance. So, you know, here you're playing a limpet, and here you're playing a feather starfish, and they would try and recreate their moves. And so that we could use those moves and to give to the artists so they could sketch it. Because we had to design with John DeLuca and our choreographers, we had to design a massive production number. And it was the most insane thing we've ever done, but it was. That's why I'm most proud of that, for sure.
I'm proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. That's so cool. That reminds me of the footage that you see of the gospel singers in Hercules.
Yes.
And how they had all their dancers come in, and the animators, went off that. Can you release this footage to me? Like, can you send this to me? Because I would love to see that.
Well, you know what?
That's so cool.
There's a featurette just on Under the Sea and how we built it, so you'll absolutely see that. It's really cool. I mean, part of me last night actually wanted to sort of just run for everybody one scene so they could see what we actually filmed before everything was added.
Okay, well, if you need anyone to come and if you need any 90s kids to come and, just watch that. The best part of Little Mermaid for me is the Easter eggs. Seeing Mickey and Donald and Goofy at King Triton's concert in the animated version, or Mr. Limpet. Like, that was so cool.
Oh, I love that.
Talk to me about putting Easter eggs in this film and what fans can look out for.
Well, there were little bits and pieces. I mean, we had some on the set, because John Meyer, our production designer, is a massive Disney fan. So, like, for instance, I have to actually look and see if you can see it in the film. It was definitely on the set. Like, there was a rope that was like on the ship that was literally like a Mickey. Like literally a rope like that. So I have to actually examine and see if there's but it was all there on the set. I mean, I guess our biggest kind of Easter egg is probably I guess I'll say the original Ariel, Jodie Benson, has a cameo, and that was because, listen, she's an old friend. I mean, I directed her in the 90s.
Wow.
Early 90s, and she's just so great. She's just such a warm, wonderful, beautiful person, and so supportive. So that was exciting to have her, and no one was more excited than Halle. She was out of her mind.